Hello, and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about how you can decide which parts of your gameplay you really want to focus on and improve based on what your goals are and stuff, and also why it's really important to actually make goals in both your life and the game, because otherwise you're just wandering around aimlessly, right? So yeah, if we start off, right? So we have like improvement, right? Actually I can use like this texting. So we have improvement. So what can we do to like actually improve, right? So let's split it up into the most simple parts, right? So early game, right? Then we have mid game, and then we have like late game, right? And then let's say that early game we're going to play that 100% of the time. We're always gonna play that, right? Then mid game, let's say we're gonna play that like I don't know 85% of the time, right? And how often do we actually get to late game? Let's say like I don't know 40% of the time, whatever, right? So instantly we see a little pattern where maybe focusing on the earlier parts of the game is going to be better for us usually, right? But if we can somehow stall out games, then we can win in late game as well. But at some point, it's going to be very difficult to like really stall out if we're like losing too hard in the early game. But okay, so what kind of stuff can we then focus on, right? So we have these ideas where we have like, do you want to focus on mid game, late game, early game, right? But then, okay, what is our goal now? Like, let's say that our goal is, let's say we're currently like either way, we're like a bronze player, right? We are bronze. That's our scenario. So we're bronze, and the scenarios that we have are we want to get gold, and then we want to get like diamond, and then we want to get like master, and then we want to get like challenger, I don't know, and then I don't know, like VC for like world class. Okay, so we want to be like really good at that point. Because just being challenger doesn't mean you're like really good. It just means you're pretty good at solo queue and you like to play and decent mental and whatever else, right? But that does not make you even close to like being a world class player, right? So okay, we have these scenarios as to what we want to achieve and what does this really do for us and why is it so important to set goals, right? So firstly, if we don't have a goal and our goal is just to climb, then basically every time that we lose, it's kind of like bad, right? But at the same time, if we're bronze right now and our goal is to be like world class, then like there are two approaches here as to what can happen with our mentality. Firstly, we can think to ourselves, okay, well, it doesn't matter if I lose anyway. And then we don't care about our losses, which is not exactly what we want, right? We want to somewhat care about our losses. We just don't want to care about them too much, right? At the same time, we can have this scenario where we care about our losses way too much because every loss is like, I'm so far away and whatever, right? So if every loss makes us feel like we're so far away from our goal and it makes us feel like we're going way too far, then that's also an issue, right? Because if we look, let's say this is like our elo graph, right? And if we say that we start like here, I don't know, and then we go like this, okay, that's like really cool. We're like happy, right? And then maybe we like lose a bit, right? And we're like really unhappy because we lost a bit, you know? Like this is not good because we still made like this amount of progress. Like this is still our progress. But then what a lot of people will have happen is, okay, they lost a bit, they went like a bit lower, and now they feel like, well, I already wanted to be here. Like let's say that's like plat 1, right? Like this is like the best example of it. Like this little peak is plat 1. And they're like, but I could have been diamond 4. I should have gotten diamond 4. I wanted diamond. And now I'm platinum 3. And they were like, I don't know, silver before, right? Well, you still went from silver to like middle of plat, like, you know. So these things kind of have like problems with them, because the question is like, how do you set your goals in the game? Because it's just like winning being a goal will usually make you actually lose more. Improving being a goal does work, but the problem is that just saying, well, just play to improve is kind of difficult, right? Because then the question is, what is your mentality, right? Does your mentality have to then be like, okay, well, I lose, but it's okay? But we already said that I lose, but it's okay. It's like a bit meh as a mentality, right? So what we really want is to figure out how we can not lose that game next time, right? And then we can maybe make it, right? And then we try not to lose the next game like that, right? And then if we keep doing that, then we should improve, and yet we're also like playing to win, let's say, right? So that's pretty interesting. But then how do these goals change what we really want, right? Because to be here, right, it technically doesn't really matter what we do. Like, it doesn't really matter, because to be here, we will need to be good mechanically, right? So we will need to be good mechanically, good macro, you know, like we will need to understand the champs, right? Like play a lot of champs, and I don't know, like everything in between, right? So if our goal is to be world class, then kind of no matter what path we take, it's gonna be like okay at least. And why is that? It's because to be like world class in the game, like so many people are willing to put in the time and the effort. I mean, not that many people are willing to put in like actual like complete effort, but so many people are willing to put in so much time and a pretty good amount of effort that it ends up being a lot about stuff like, I don't know, talent, let's say. Let's call it that, okay? So, but then the lower we go, the kind of easier it becomes to get there, right? Because we need less and less. So we can choose like easier and easier paths to get there. But then, okay, what will benefit us to get here? Well, we'll talk about that like after we get through the other ones, right? So for example, for gold, we just need to do like one thing okay, like one thing pretty decently, or we need to do like a bunch of stuff like okay, right? But it's like pretty easy to be like okay at warding and be like, let's say like okay mechanically, like not like amazing, not like very good, but just okay, right? CSing like matchups, I don't know, like your champions, like one champ or two, right? And so on. And this stuff is like pretty easy to do, right? And this will get you to gold. But you know, the issue that does exist with these things is that they're kind of like temporary, right? Like these things tell you how you can get a better rank, but they don't tell you how you can actually improve in the long term. Because, okay, let's say that now we got gold by doing this, right? Now, we already play one champ, right? And we're already working on this stuff. So now basically like all we can do to get diamond is again the same thing. Either get really good at one thing or improve at like everything at like some kind of an amount, right? And then like the same thing happens here, right? And the same thing happens here, right? And if we keep picking the easiest paths, right? The higher we climb, the harder it gets. And that's the problem that you're gonna run into with like educational content often. So what happens is that the educational content will help you like get higher, but once you get higher, you will actually have a harder path ahead of you than if you got higher like naturally, right? Though you might not even get higher naturally. But how do you say this? Like, it's just going to be harder, right? So if you, for example, want to get to Chal, right, from being like this guy, like it doesn't really matter that much which path you choose. I mean, it kind of does, right? It kind of does. You don't want to choose like a bad path, right? But any like okay path is going to be like okay. Because either you're going to have a hard time getting to master, or you're gonna have a hard time getting from master to chal, right? But what I will say is that it's better usually to pick this, and that's why it's recommended to go like this, to like do the easier stuff first. Because first of all, you see progress, which can motivate you, and second of all, you get better practice because you play in higher elo, which makes more sense, right? So this stuff is pretty okay. Though what I have to say is that if you did choose a worse path, right? Like you would end up being there. But okay, so what is, for example, like master, right? And stuff like that. So what are these ranks? How do you like what kind of player ends up in this rank, right? It ends up being like one of these guys who's like improved like a decent amount, right? But then he's just like not good enough for a child, right? In multiple ways usually, right? So this is the guy that's gonna have like okay mental, but he's just gonna be like kind of meh, right? Probably. Or might even have bad mental, but just be kind of like meh. And then there are going to be like the guys who are like maybe either able to get like higher, like GM Chell, or they could get higher if they like improve like one or two small things, right? But what holds those people back? Well, it's always going to end up being mental, right? And how do these mentalities really develop? So because people focus on ranks, they end up in a situation where they think that they should win against the people who are below them always, right? And the people who are worse than them. And especially because in lower elo, this does happen. If you're better than the enemy, you will usually win, right? So as people get higher and higher, they get more and more frustrated because this stops being the case. Like yesterday, I played a game, like I can show you even, where I would not win no matter what I do. And it's not even like high elo game. Like this. I would not win this no matter what I do, right? Like this is just my like one of my random accounts, and I'm just like chilling, right? I played Duke with like some diamond players, so instead of master game, I got like D1 game. But this is not winnable. Like my mid laner is literally trolling, right? My top laner is basically trolling as well. My bot lane is just hard losing. Enemy Lee Sin is 2 levels down on winning team, right? They're just not winning. And the enemy draft is better as well, so you just lose. So when stuff like this starts to happen around like these elos, like Diamond and Master, right? People get really frustrated. And when you get really frustrated, you start to think, well, I need to do more, right? And then people start to change how they play. So they change what got them from here to like somewhere here, and they start to play in a different way. They start to think like, okay, well, I need to be the protagonist. I need to do everything, you know? So I need to be the protagonist, right? I need to do everything. I need to win for my team before they can lose. But you see how that doesn't really work. Because now, like, let's say this is like our rift, right? And like rivers and like lanes, right? Let's say like this, right? So now, as a jungler, for example, right? How can you be here, here, and here at the same time? You kinda can, I guess. Like, if you like run lane to lane, right? Like, you can run like to this lane, and then like to this lane, and then like to this lane. But that's not gonna be so good, because first of all, you're not taking any enemy jungle camps, you're not taking any of your own camps. Enemy jungle can kinda like keep up just by like running around and taking camps. Then next up, like you're not doing anything to the enemy jungler, so that guy can also like counter gank you and shit. So interesting, right? So it just ends up being really inefficient, trying to do everything yourself and winning solo. So okay, what can we do about that, right? I mean, that's kind of like just mental stuff and expectations. So we have to manage our expectations, which is like an important thing as you go like higher and higher. So if your goal is anything above like diamond, right? Like above diamond 4 or something, then managing your expectations and setting good goals is going to be very crucial, honestly. I think it's like one of the biggest things that will separate your climb after that, right? Like, you have to be ready to lose. You have to, like, as I said, manage your expectations and so on. So, okay, let's say that we can do that, right? So, what else will we want to change based on what our goal is, right? So if our goal is, say that our goal is shell, and again we're like either gold or we're like silver or whatever, it doesn't really matter. So what can we learn in our elo, right? Can we learn the limits of champions? Not really, because people misplay, right? Can we learn really good mechanical play? Yeah, probably we can get like pretty good at mechanics, but honestly that just comes by playing a lot, slowing down your gameplay, also like playing like one or two champions, deliberate practice and so on. Don't really want to go too much into it, but maybe I'll talk about it in another video. So, okay, we can kind of work on mechanics. Okay, what about waves? I mean, waves always work the same way in jungle camps. That's why they're usually recommended as the things to improve, right? Warding kind of doesn't work the same way. Like, communication doesn't really work the same way. The actual like ganks and stuff don't really work the same way, right? So the best things we can really work on are basically like decent trades from ourselves and waves, right? So that becomes like the best stuff to really master at this point, right? So walking up, hitting enemy, like actually trading, and then focusing on waves. If you can focus on those two things and then have like a basic plan after early game, then that should really be all you need. And if you follow that plan, then going higher and higher is not so bad. Now, if your goal isn't to go as high as possible, right, or go challenger or something, then suddenly what we can do is like very different, right? So we don't need to really improve as much if we're not trying to go as high as possible. So at that point, what we're allowed to do is to adjust our gameplay more towards winning, right? So maybe, for example, maybe we would start like doing more, let's say, flip stuff, and then we would get like a lead from that, right? And then we would just play consistent after that, and then we would try to close out the game with mid or late game knowledge in terms of how to actually win, right? So if we can edge out wins like that, then we can edge out some elo, which can be an okay strategy for us then if our goal is not to get too much higher. Since actually it's going to be quite a lot easier than us learning proper waves and proper trades and so on, right? And proper spacing and all of that shit. Like, we can just do like we can make a really basic flowchart in our head as to what we want to achieve in the game and what we want to do, and then follow that. And if we're silver, then getting us to gold will be like really easy for that. And if we're silver and getting us to diamond will also be like pretty doable for that. But if we want to actually get high, then that's gonna end up being more of a demerit than a merit, right? So I believe that what you should do, first of all, is decide what you really want to do in this game, right? So what do I really want to achieve, right? So this can be like rank or achievements or whatever in this game, right? Like, what do you want in this game? And then after you figure out what you want in this game, right? You should try to figure out what are the steps. Actually, first you should try to figure out what are the requirements, right? Okay, so what are the requirements for getting there, right? So what do these players that have what I want have that I don't have, right? So okay, so after we figure that out, it's kind of like, okay, well, if they have so much stuff, like for example, if you compare it to a child player, he's just gonna have like everything that you don't have, right? Or not everything, but like most of the stuff you don't have. So then you would be like, okay, well, now I'm kind of like paralyzed. I don't really know what I should be doing, right? But then the question is just how do you lay a good foundation? That's what usually coaching is geared towards, like getting you to a decent foundation where you can go as high as possible, right? That's kind of the idea. But at the same time, if your goal is not that, then you don't really need that. Like, if your goal is, as we said before, like diamond or gold or something, then you can ask yourself, okay, what are the requirements for that? And you will see that these players have like a lot less than the really high elo players, right? So you would be like, okay, then what do I need to do? Like, what steps should I take to be like them? And if you take those steps, you should be good. Okay, so with that, we have some ideas in terms of that. And why is it so important to really set a goal, right? So this whole video I'm talking about like setting a goal, some of the variables around it, like some of the issues and so on. So why is it so important to set a goal? Well, because if I don't set a goal, then other than the mental stuff that I talked about before, there's also the issue of what am I really going for, right? Like, so goals should be like smaller and manageable. And if they're not, then we are gonna have an issue, right? And if our goal is just, I don't know, climb, improve, like, okay, we climbed and improved, but now we need to climb and improve again. And now we need to climb and improve again. And now we need to climb and improve again. And while this would be like very nice to see, right? It's often not so realistic and not so sustainable, because you going from like bronze to, I don't know, diamond is really good, but you shouldn't like expect to really easily improve after going from bronze to diamond, right? Because there's always going to be stuff that you're lacking, right? So there's stuff that you already got to that level and maybe like even above it or whatever, and you ended up getting it like that, but you're still gonna need to improve on smaller stuff, and it's going to be harder and harder, right? So expecting to keep the same results is going to be very difficult. So this is where unrealistic expectations come from, and this is why people get like depressed and give up on the game, and they like get really tilted and so on, right? And at the same time, we don't really want to do stuff that's unnecessary, right? So set a realistic goal, right? And your goal should like usually be smaller, but you should have it in mind that, for example, like your goal should not be, okay, I'm silver, I want to get challenger. Your goal should be, okay, I'm silver, I would like to get as high as possible, but for now, let's try to get to like gold, you know? And there shouldn't be like a tight schedule for that, because if you're silver and you're thinking, okay, I want to be challenger, then you're gonna be like, okay, well, I want to get gold in like a month, and in the next month I want to get like plat, and the next month I want to get like diamond, and so on, right? And this is gonna be like really toxic and bad, because it can benefit you more sometimes to, for example, go from silver to gold, spend like 2 months here, and then suddenly jump to like diamond, and then I don't know, spend like 3 months here, and then suddenly go to like master or something, than it would if you did like, oh yeah, okay, 1 month and now I'm gold, 1 month and now I'm plat, 1 month and now I'm diamond, 1 month and now I'm this, you know, because that just means that you're like ironing out small things over and over, but it's gonna get harder and harder. Well, if you like get stuck, that means you're also improving. Like if you're still trying to improve and you're not really moving in Elo, then that usually means that you're improving at stuff that can't really be seen right now. So I have like a pretty good example of that. With this one guy that messaged me, so maybe I can find it. Okay. So this one guy used to like message me, right? And he was like messaging me, I don't know. And this guy was like, yeah, I'm struggling, you know, I'm like not really climbing. He was like complaining, he was like, yeah, should I switch up champ? Should I switch, like stick to this champ, whatever, right? And yeah, I don't have impact and stuff like that, right? So he was like trying to improve, but then he didn't feel like he was improving or climbing, right? He was like, shit. But then he just trusted the process and he was like just chilling, trying his best, right? So as he kept going, he was, okay, well, I noticed that no one plays my champ as well as me, right? Whatever, that's good, right? And then he slowly started like climbing, because what really happens? Well, he made some improvements, he like whatever, and he climbed. And then he like demoted to platform. Maybe like, I don't know, mental stuff, maybe expectations, maybe unlucky games, who knows, right? But then he like kept trying, right? He realized that people aren't really some sort of different existence. Like, you have to realize these people who are like master, Chell, whatever, they're not really different from you. Like, they are better by some amount at the moment, but they're not really different, right? They're all just people. Like, you're not special and neither are them. So since no one is really special, you can do whatever they do as well. And then, I don't know, like he kept like trying, right? And then, okay, then he got like close to diamond. And then he got diamond. And I think now he's like diamond 2 or something. Then he's like, this is no different, right? Then he's like, I don't know. I think he's like diamond 2 now, if I remember right. So what really happened there? Like, he kept improving on stuff that didn't really give him elo, right? So let's say you like improve your CS by like 1 CS per minute, right? It's not really gonna give you a lot of elo. Then let's say that you improve your like awareness, right? So you're like more aware in fights, you're like more aware of rotations, you're more aware of like everything, right? That's also not gonna really improve your elo by that much. Then let's say that you're like better at warding now. That's not gonna improve your elo by that much either. Eventually it will, right? But at the moment it won't. So these things will stack up and stack up and stack up. And then this is why you see people have like explosive climbs. So they're like gold, but they got these things to like, I don't know, like let's say a diamond level, right? But that won't make them go into diamond instantly, because what really makes you climb? It's stuff like the big stuff, right? Like if you learn how to invade and kill the enemy, if you learn how to like bounce and like all in and like fight, you know, if you learn stuff like that, then you get a huge lead that lets you like both carry and also to have a lot of impact, right? In general, even if you can't carry. While this stuff is just like small improvements, incremental. But then once you actually get to a point where you got a lot of this stuff down, right? Then once you improve the stuff that actually makes you, let's say, able to carry more. So let's say that you got like, okay, let's use a jungle example. So you learned how to like pat, you learned how to clear, you learned how to do like all of that shit, whatever, right? And I mean, it gives you some elo, but it doesn't give you that much elo, right? You learn how to like ward, how to avoid invades, blah 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 blah. But maybe like invades don't even happen in your elo, so it doesn't do anything, right, for you with your actual LP. But then you suddenly learn how to like, I don't know, gank and invade. And while usually, like if you did it before you learned all of that stuff, ganking and invading would have given you, say, I don't know, like let's say 100, 200 LP, maybe like 300, 400, right? Now suddenly it gives you like 800 because you get rewarded for all of this stuff that you already know. And this stuff makes it so you just end up climbing higher, right? Because it's like multipliers. So my point here is that if your goal is to get like a lot higher than you are right now, then you don't really need to worry about getting stuck for a while or whatever else. Because if you get stuck for a while, but you're still trying to improve and stuff, then eventually that will pay off. And with all the multipliers, you're gonna end up climbing like a lot higher than you are right now once you improve enough of the stuff. Anyway, though, this video has been kind of dragging on, and I think I got my point across as to what I wanted to say, so I'll wrap it up here. If you enjoyed the video, then like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.